16 degrees.
Yeah, I know.
No, we're all bundled up like that.
Well, yesterday was so warm, and I have to go to Harvey's this afternoon. I have a birthday party for a 90-year-old this afternoon, so yeah, I'm freezing. But I thought Harvey's might be nice.
Harvey's might be nice.
Yeah, I'm hoping. Yeah, I was almost too warm yesterday, for here, it was too warm yesterday. So I
Yeah,
really,
just easy, but it was beautiful yesterday.
oh, it's gorgeous, yeah. Yeah, I sat outside for the other day off, yay.
Leslie and I have been trying to figure out, like, this morning proved our theory incorrect, which is
7 hours
If-
filling cracks in the
if you
driveway.
look at the numbers,
Hopefully seal it on front there.
Oh, there you
can't
go.
see our neighbors' houses in the fog. Come over this
So you're gonna
hill.
seal it yourself, or you're gonna have?
I'll seal myself.
No, not today. Yesterday, yes.
Cheap, I'm sorry. I spent, I filled all the
Yeah.
big, the house is like built in 56, was probably the original driveway. I get the stuff and seal all the cracks, the big cracks of the stuff. Now let that dry. And now Thursday afternoon I go out there and seal it with, it's not cheap. I'm just cheap.
Yeah,
What's the project? Something to do.
meeting will come to order. And first thing we have is the flag salute, so would everybody like to stand? And we will do that. So, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, now, let's see.
We need to
Public
do the roll call.
appearances.
Roll call?
Roll call.
Oh, roll call, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, well,
Marie Claire Gorham.
Here?
John Krischer.
Here.
Susan Murphy.
here.
Phil Pardue.
Here.
Mary Jo Williams.
Here.
We are all here. Thank you.
Okay, we did the pledge, so we have no public appearances. And announcements, I tried to get we did the thank you, both Phil and John, for helping out at the book sale. Oh, am I on? No. Am I on now? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I'm not good at this. That's why I'm going to hopefully hand it over to John today. We had the book sale. Thursday and Friday were a big success. I'm not sure about Saturday. I don't have the total yet. I emailed Judy Rigdon, who's our treasurer, and she's waiting for a bill from Cardinelli. But I'm assuming that with donations and everything else, we'll probably make 20, so 19, 20, something like that. So we should be able to give you 25 at least this year. Okay?
That's fantastic.
No, I can't.
Let's see.
That's a good question. Okay, we're gonna take a pause really quick. Leslie needs to check something, so everybody sit tight.
It's chill.
Yeah, and neither one of us realized that we were having a problem with the screen over here that Slash and stuff could record us. So we can record via Zoom, no problem, and they can have a little bigger. Because the meeting's open to the public, you can run it. So just double checking that, and if that's the case, we'll just hit record on Zoom and we'll go.
Okay.
Never a dull moment.
No, there's always something. What's the verdict? We're all right? Okay, so it's up to you. I think you're next.
Or if there's any more announcements from the trustees.
No more.
Marie Claire, any
No,
announcements?
thank you.
Nope, okay. Announcements from the library director. We've filled our last full-time vacancy. We have our new head of reference started 2 weeks ago. Her name is Rachel Gaither, and I will have her come to the next Library Board of Trustees meeting to meet all of you and introduce herself. And if you are at the main library, please pop in and say hi. The next 2 weeks, she'll actually be in local history in the afternoons covering because Katie is at a conference and taking some vacation time. So please stop by and say hi and introduce yourselves. And then we had a really successful end of summer reading party last Thursday. We must have given away over 200 books and tons and tons of ice cream. It was a really, really fun afternoon. So summer reading was a great success this year, and we're looking forward to planning for next year. And that is all I have right now.
Okay, Alex, you're on.
Is this working? It's been a while. Good morning, everyone. I am really excited about the coming year. As you know, or you may not know, the Carmel Public Library Foundation Board takes a summer hiatus, but of course, we don't. And so right now, we are in the process of developing our annual programs. Really exciting. We have your carbon footprint in October. We have I Am Pei, the architect. Lots of interesting topics, another interesting array. And then we're also working on developing our annual fundraising event, which will take place again in late spring of 2024. The library and the Library Foundation are working together to finalize our refresh for our branding and for our communications. So that's really exciting. And we're also working together on a sustainable social media plan together, which we are going to launch in September. Let's see what else is happening. We'll be developing our annual campaign as well. All this is happening now. And I will ask you to please mark your calendars for September 8th. You will receive an email invitation, but we are going to honor the librarians with a librarian appreciation breakfast from 8:30 to 10:30 on September 8th. So we would love for you to join us. And I know there's some new people on this board, and we are also having our board retreat in September, and we have 6 people, 5 new people, and 1 coming back on the board. And so this is a good time to invite new and current board members to come and experience all the programs and also the donor acknowledgement events that we have. They're fun, and we really appreciate your support and your presence. So that's all I have. If anyone has any questions, I'm here to respond. All good? Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we need a motion to approve the minutes for,
Wait,
No,
don't,
actually, we're,
we are, am I on
yeah.
the wrong?
flip back. We're receiving the fiscal year 2021-22 audit report from our auditor, Sheldon Chauvin, who's here with us today.
that's
We'll probably remember from last year and the year before. Take it away,
There he
Sheldon.
is, I'm sorry. Here we
It
go.
looks like I dropped off for a second. Maybe you got me to the panel or something, or it could have been my connection. So I did not hear the introduction. But I heard take it away. I will do so. I will say this, my connection, I have a new PC and switched from a laptop for the first time in years. And so the connection's been bad the last week or so on Zoom specifically. Especially when I share my files. So today what I did, under the assumption that it might be something with my home network, since I've been working at home lately, I switched over to my mobile router. So hopefully that solves the problem. If it doesn't, I may have to switch to my laptop, old and reliable laptop during this meeting. So hopefully it doesn't go wrong and really get through it. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so we can see the report, and then we will go ahead and move forward. All right, so you should see, 1 second here, move to the right page, the audit report, cover page with the nice photo of the Harrison Memorial Library. Can someone confirm that's what you?
It looks like it
Right,
skipped
perfect.
out. There it is.
All right, so maybe a little lag.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind then. All right, so June 30, 2022 audit, and oh boy,
Oops, we
it
just-
popped already.
I think we all have the audit report in front of us, Sheldon, so if it helps not to have to do screen share, you can skip that piece of
Yeah,
things and we can follow along as you guide us through.
Yeah, let's pass on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. That's a good idea. And then actually, I'm gonna turn my video off too, so you don't get to see the report or the audit or me. So maybe that'll help. All right, let's move forward. So we're looking at the fiscal year ended June 30, 2022, independent auditor's report. It includes a financial statements reporting package. So I'm gonna jump ahead to the table of contents. So on the table of contents, you get that nice summary of what's included in the report, of course. The independent auditor's report is formatted differently. The last 2 years has been a new format over the prior 20 years. And it's more relevant than it has been in the past. And the important information is included at the front of the report, at the top of the page. And then other new information is included in that opinion. So we'll touch basis on that independent auditor's report. And of course, ultimately the results of the audit are included there. So we'll definitely want to touch on that. The financial statements, we'll take a quick look at that, and then I'll leave it open to questions. The notes, not really much to go into in terms of the notes. They're par for the course. We do have a significant disclosure in terms of new accounting pronouncements, but a lot of that is more informative than anything else. Not super relevant. We find that some local governments like to see it, some don't, so we keep it in there until we're told otherwise. Things that are absolutely relevant, we keep in there no matter what. Required supplementary information, it's the budget to actual schedules. And then of course we did perform this audit under generally accepted governmental auditing standards, so we have an opinion related to that. So the independent auditor's report. So under the financial section, report page number 9. Thinking that page 9 is wrong. That should be page 1. So we have an error to be corrected. Page numbering. My version says page 9. Hopefully your version says page 1. We might have some pagination errors here that went out in the final version, because I'm looking at the final version we actually sent out. So if you're seeing page 9 and 10 in the independent auditor's report, we'll double check that and get that resent. So not enough to hold up you guys approving it, but something we definitely don't want to have in our final. So we'll get that fixed. So looking at page 1, and if you see a page 9, that's the independent auditor's report at the top. Our opinion is very first thing you get to see, and it tells you what we did and what our opinion is on what we did. And so we audited the financial statements of the Harrison Memorial Library Fund. And keep in mind, it is a special revenue fund included with the city's annual comprehensive annual financial report. So as a part of the city audit, we receive information from library personnel, and we try to do the best that we can to incorporate the city audit and the library audit all at once. But there's some things that we have to do specific to the library audit that just can't be done with the city. So there's a little bit of a lag there. But ultimately, our goal is to issue an opinion on those financial statements. And in doing so, we will let you know whether or not those financial statements are free of material misstatement. And as it says here, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the library. So in essence, we're saying the financial statements included as of June 30, 2022 are free of a material misstatement. So what does that mean? That means that we've issued an unmodified opinion. So it's a clean opinion, and you've passed the audit, right? The independent auditor's report on generally accepted governmental auditing standards goes into more detail as to whether or not we had any significant deficiencies, control deficiencies, and material weaknesses. And when we take a quick look at that letter later on, you'll see that we did not have any significant deficiencies, control deficiencies, or material weaknesses to report. Now, keep in mind that the audit is performed with a reasonable assurance that the financial statements are presented fairly, not an absolute assurance. It's still a high level of assurance, but it's just not 100%. We have an emphasis of a meta paragraph. That's simply to state that the financial statements included do not include all financial information related to the city. Now that page 9, which should be page 1, is now going to turn into page 10, which should be page 2. So on page 10, which is actually page 2, can't get more confusing than that, you're going to see that new information that I promised you. In performing an audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, we exercise professional judgment, we maintain professional skepticism. Keep in mind it's a 3-phase audit, really kind of 4 phases because we get into the reporting and wrap up and the follow-up. The follow-up's that new 4th phase that we've kind of added in the last few years. And we also identify and assess risks. Now the risk assessment and risk and material statement specific to the financial statements is a big deal. It guides our entire audit. And in doing so, it helps us plan and identify whether or not there are areas we can rely on, excuse me, or whether or not there are areas where we might have a significant deficiency or material weakness. We obtain an understanding of internal controls relevant to the audit. Sometimes we look at internal controls that are not relevant to the audit, but we do that when we identify risk in step 2. So we might find something that's a risk of abuse or maybe a risk of fraud, and then that takes into an area where we're looking beyond your normal internal control processes. But the objective of our gaining an understanding of internal controls is really to design the audit. We evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies used and the reasonableness of significant accounting estimates made by management. We conclude as to whether or not in our judgment there are conditions or events considered in aggregate that raise substantial doubt about the city's ability to continue as a going concern. In this case, it's HML's ability to continue as a going concern, but here's the thing is HML's part of the city, technically. So with that being said, those are the relevant areas in the opinion letter. So I'm going to jump ahead to what the financial statements look like. So the financial statements actually start on page 4, and that would be the correct page number. And so the first one is the balance sheets, or otherwise known as a statement of financial position, statement of net position, but correctly called a balance sheet. And it's mostly cash, and then a breakdown of the fund balances. So nothing surprising there. Very healthy position at the end of the year. So when it comes to that going concern comment, saying that we evaluated the lack, whether there was a lack of going concern, our first step is looking at the balance sheet, and whether or not you have a good solid fund balance as of the point in time that we're auditing. And then if you move on to page 5, you'll see the income statement or the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. And that's where you're going to see the contributions, the donations, the charges for services. You're going to see the expenditures related to the library, broken out in several categories. And of course, programs and cataloging is the largest expense, and then documents and records being the second largest. Excuse me. And that's it for the financial statement side of things. Then it gets into the note disclosures. The only significant note disclosure that we have, and I'll point you to that, is going to be the cash note disclosure. So if you wanted to take a quick look at that, and I've already given you the most important part of this audit, which is there's no findings, you passed, right, unmodified. But the most significant note disclosure is note 2, which is on page 12, and that breaks down your cash and investments. And of course, everything is in length, right, very safe. Now you can earn more interest if you go into a laddered program. So if you reach out to brokers, there's brokers out there right now offering programs that will stagger when your treasury bonds and investments mature. Therefore, you have the available cash that you need to you. There's a little bit more risk to those that you could have declines in value. I've seen some significant declines in value in 22. So by being in LAIF in 22, you actually saved money because you didn't have that significant of a decline in value. But they've all caught up already. So yeah, if you ever have an idea that you may want to move out of LAIF, I can give you some referrals in that direction. And I don't get anything for that, and I never will, by the way, as a CPA that performs the audit. Okay, so with that being said, I'll point you to the last and most important piece, which is the Generally Accepted Government Auditing Standards Audit Report. I guess we could take a quick look at the RSI, the Required Supplementary Information, which is the budget to actual. So if you want to go to page 17, you'll see at the top of that schedule the budget and actual. Right, this is a generally accepted accounting principles presentation, so the actual amounts are based on GAAP. And so you can see how you fared versus the budget at the end of the year. So your contributions came in well over expected, which is great. The expenses were under budget, which is where you want to be. And so you're operating at a surplus as compared to your budget, which you're actually budgeted to have a small, tiny little deficit there. Plenty of fund balance to cover that if you were to have one, but you didn't. So conservative budget, good results. And again, we look at that when we're considering going concern. Finally, the generally accepted governmental auditing standards audit report. So what we say here, there's two things to point out. One is I already mentioned that there aren't any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. The other thing is that we don't actually issue an opinion on internal controls. As I mentioned, and as it is documented in the independent auditor's report, the point of us reviewing internal controls is to help us design the audit plan, right? So we're required to do that, and we do that above and beyond. But we're not required to actually issue an opinion on internal controls. Do we test controls? Yes, we do. We test controls sufficiently to help us design the audit and to gain and obtain an understanding of those controls. We just do not opine on internal controls. Can we? Yes, we can. Previous auditing standards, they've changed over the years. You wouldn't see that. Now we can actually issue an opinion on the internal controls as well, but it's a separate engagement. It's an add-on. So most local governments are sticking to the traditional audit, just focus on the financials and compliance. Don't worry about issuing an opinion on internal controls. But we actually did a full-blown internal control audit for Bellflower Unified School District down in LA, which was the first time we've done that and issued an opinion on internal controls. Okay, with that concludes my presentation. Any questions or comments? I do see a few cleanup items in there that I've noted as I was going through the audit report, so we'll get those cleaned up. A couple dates that were off, page numbering that I noted, so we'll get those cleanup items out there. Nothing that I think would be sufficient to stop you from approving the report unless you saw something I didn't.
Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question on page 12 of attachment 1. It's the note. It says GASB statement number 101, compensated absences. If this is a audit of the library fund, the city pays for the absences. Why is that in our accounting statement, or is there? I guess that's my question.
Yeah, so it's a good question because you won't have an impact from this financial statement.
Right.
So it's one of those where, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes they might not be specifically relevant to you, but we like to include them so you have that additional information as to what's out there. And some clients say, you know what, if it's not specific to us, we want to pull it out. Just only keep the ones that are actually specific, have a specific relevance to what we do. In this circumstance here, this is an FYI, no disclosure. So it's not going to impact the library, but it will impact the city.
Okay, as long as Ashley's happy with it, because it's a action item in our audit that the library is looking at it, but we have no control and have no say over it at the end. So, which is fine.
Right, and I think when I look through the library's audit each year, I'm also a city employee and have to function within all of the bounds of the city regulations, even though we have a separate fund. So it's helpful for me to see those as I go through and think about how we're doing contracts and all of that. So,
Okay.
yeah. But if the board wants things in future audit reports to be more specific to the library and trim things down, we certainly can.
Any other questions? Okay. That's it. Thank
To
you.
receive the report. Thank you so much for being here, Sheldon. And
Yes,
we're probably going to get started with the audit for this fiscal year starting soon.
Yep, and this year, just keep a heads up, we're really pushing to keep things on schedule with COVID the last few years. It's been difficult to keep clients on task, and then the city had some issues last year with turnover, so we're hoping to get things back on time this year. So just a heads up on that.
Thank you, Sheldon.
All right, guys, have a good day. See ya.
Okay, the next order of business then is the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Are there any questions? No. Leslie?
Marie Claire Gorham.
Yes.
John Krischer,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
Yes.
Phil Pardue,
Yes.
Mary Jo Williams.
Yes.
Approved, thank you.
Okay, library report.
So I'm back again with statistics. We continue to do really well. Summer reading numbers, I think you'll see really bumping numbers for July and June. In terms of circulation, we're kind of holding steady with some of those. And our program attendance, of course, is through the roof compared to last year for summer reading. And then, of course, our patron totals, we're really starting to feel the visitor traffic, especially at the main library. And I don't know if any of you know, but we went viral, the village went viral on TikTok, and somehow the library got involved in that, which was somebody posted that the library had fairy tale cottage maps. So we shared, with the Chamber of Commerce shared those with those. So we've had a lot of foot traffic looking for maps of Carmel in both library buildings, which has been fun to be viral on TikTok and have all this funny foot traffic. And be able to help people find things. And I did include an updated fiscal year breakdown of where we are compared to 2018, 2019, and the years in between for our circulation numbers, patron visits, and some of those other metrics that come up, in particular with the state librarian's report and the criteria for star library status. I have been working, since we continue our discussions about ebooks, the impacts of circulating ebooks. I have a whole nother chart, not as colorful, that I'm working on that I'll have for the board in August, where I went back a little bit further, and I'm looking at our number of hard copy items, but also including a timeline alongside these statistics for developments in technology, what else is going on in society, like a recession, because the library doesn't operate in a vacuum. All of those things impact our services. Like, when did cars stop being manufactured with CD players? So now people can't play those CDs. And those things, you know, it's not just a matter of, oh, I don't like this, or oh, I don't like that, in terms of patrons. Behaviors change, and COVID-19 and the pandemic certainly did change patron behaviors. So I'll be coming back with that, and, you know, some additional statistics for what's circulating in terms of e-materials versus hard copy materials. And I want to do some surveying of the community to ask them, you know, what changed for you, and how are you using hard copy materials versus ebooks, and why did that change? It'll be interesting to know. And so we'll continue this discussion. And but overall, our numbers look good for June and for fiscal year 22-23 overall. We've really come back from the pandemic.
Any questions for Ashley? No? Okay.
I have one question. What really impressed me was the patron visits are way up. The hard copy checkouts not picking back up, but we're having all the people coming to the library. So it's kind of, to me, it's like Phil has said about, is that we're going to need the library anymore. People are going to show up, but they seem to be showing up in droves, but not checking anything out that much. It's really...
Well, they are. I mean, if you look at our circulation's higher in overall circulation. Yeah. Everything combined is higher than it was before the pandemic. So people are using the library, and they're still coming in, but they're coming in for different reasons. They're coming in to use it as a co-working space. They're coming in to do their book club meeting. They're coming to listen to the Cypress Airs and their wonderful barbershop music. So things are shifting a little bit. And I do think, you know, it'll continue to change. I think the uptick, we're seeing a slower recovery for hard copy material circulation. And I think it will continue to increase every year based on, you know, my experience here in this community and knowing what a big group of readers that we have who are passionate about it, and passionate about physical books as well. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Also, you didn't, you said earlier about the maps. That would be another reason for people to come in.
Yeah, that I think is good. I mean, visitor traffic is important. It's how people get to know the community. It's how people become second homeowners and then end up retiring here or moving here. it's our, it's great that we can give out information. And I think of myself as a library user. When I go to another community and I don't know where to find a bathroom, or I don't know where I am, or I need to take a break somewhere quiet, I always think of the library. I mean, it's just like, let's go sit at the library, not only to, nerd out about libraries and what their signage looks like, but also it's a good respite if you're traveling to take a break and eat your sandwich in the main library garden. So I'm happy that we have visitors coming in.
Okay, any other questions for Ashley?
Just a quick comment. It would be interesting from, follow on with John, that we've had an increase from 2019, which was the high water mark, to now between about a 40% increase over, yet from those days, the adult circulation is down and the kids circulation is down, electronics is up. So, it's it'd be interesting to know what they're doing, or have we changed the way we're more efficient at counting the bodies? Are they doing different things?
Yeah.
Something's going on there.
I do think part of the increase you see over 2018 and 2019 is more reliable door counters. We had, if you remember before the pandemic, we had electronic security gates, and those were our door counters, and they would frequently, at least once a month there'd be a day where they weren't working. So I think that those numbers should be higher than they are.
Okay.
So I think we're probably close to, if not, it feels working there, it feels busy in both libraries. It's pretty steady.
Okay, good.
So, but I do think I think those numbers are a little low for 2018, 2019.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, treasurer's report.
All right, I'll start out with the good news. We're under budget for the year, but certain things I want to bring out. One thing is zip books is way down, which shows people just aren't using them after the pandemic, have stopped using them. And what is way up is we're talking about electronic checkouts, like almost $16,000 over budget, and that's Canopy, Hoopla, and ebooks, which, as we were talking earlier, is a big change in our operating, which I think in this next budget, Ashley has really adjusted for that, and we should be going next year to be pretty good shape. Another item that's well over is the local history. But by signing the checks, I've been seeing we're doing an awful lot of interviews, video interviews with people in the community, whether they're still here, to get real history for our city, which is a fantastic thing, which I think we should probably do more of. And a lot more of that. And on the team programs, which is great to see we're over budget on that, because now we finally have somebody in there taking time to take care of the kids. So on both things, we've adjusted for next year on the kids programs and the team programs. Moving forward, we should be a lot better shape. But that was the real items that were over budget. The biggest one I still think is we're just finally going to have to get our hands around is how big is this ebooks going to become? Did we budget enough next year for it? In my own gut feelings, we probably haven't, the way things are picking up. And
Could I ask a question there real quick?
Sure.
On the ebooks, on the e-material, does that also include the Audible?
So we don't have Audible.
Well, people, the
audiobooks,
Audible
yes, absolutely.
as they go, because that kind of speaks to, if you're seeing fewer of the CDs, books on CDs checked out, you may see more on the ebook. So we may see.
Yeah, I haven't gotten there in terms of
Right.
charts and statistics yet, but I did start poking around at Overdrive and Hoopla in particular, and at least 2/3 of the usage in both of those is audios.
Okay.
I know Hoopla and Canopy was the biggest one up the most, was the biggest, yeah. But the zip books was surprising to me as much as that went down.
It's a combination of, I think, more people are starting to come into the library, though we don't see the numbers going up quite yet with hard copy circulation. But we're also, when we started the zip books program, it was request anything and we'll send it to you under a certain dollar amount. When the pandemic started to ease up and we started to do more, getting back to more collection development, we started to apply that criteria to zip books. So we're not fulfilling as many of those requests.
The one thing we won't have the final numbers in yet on the budget. It's kind of with the 109,000 we took out as a budget adjustment, that kind of has some, Leslie and I have been talking about that a little bit of, it's kind of hard to put your head around the whole numbers right now.
Yeah, so we're looking at, we're probably going to be under budget a little bit. We're still waiting for some Baker and Taylor invoices to come in for some ordering we did with, for the nonfiction collection for replacements. A smaller project than what we did when we replaced a lot of the kids' nonfiction books, but those invoices will be coming in soon. And then we'll have a full reckoning and presentation at the August meeting for where we landed. And I do have some thoughts about, with the new policy that the board adopted with what do we do if we're under budget and it's more than $5,000, which is work with the CPLF on how they can do the investment. And I've been rolling over in my brain how to do that cleanly. This fiscal year, what I would like to propose is we have a new, because we have a new operating budget amount, thanks to the Carmel Public Library Foundation increasing our annual distribution, and we're going to need to put some additional funds into the operating reserves so that they accurately reflect our new annual number, because we'll be under there. So I think some of the overage can be used for that this year, while I continue to try to figure out cleanly how we do this with between the third quarter and fourth quarter disbursements, when there's a little bit of a lag in knowing when if we will be over budget, dependent on when the Carmel Public Library Foundation issues the checks. So it's not quite there yet, but for this year, we will need to make the LAIF transfer and the operating reserve transfer once we finalize the books.
Any questions?
No. Okay, we go on to the check register. Right?
Any questions?
Is there anything you want to say?
No, I just, like I said before, I sign all of them. They're all, like I keep telling you, the names of individuals or people or performers or musicians who were the children's and programs. Other than that, everything looks really good.
Is there a motion to approve the check register?
I make a motion to approve the check register.
A second.
I'll second that motion, yep.
Okay, Leslie, it's all yours.
Marie Claire Gorham,
Yes.
John Krischer,
Yes.
Susan Murphy.
Yes.
Phil Pardue,
Yes.
Mary Jo Williams.
Yes.
Approved, thank you.
Okay, and the last item on the agenda is the election of board officers. And do you want to go ahead?
Well, yes, I'll give a little staff report here. So it's time for us to appoint new officers for this year. And thank you to Susan and Phil for stepping in for the last 3 months after the resignation of our board president in February to get us through the budget season. Our officers are the president, the vice president, and a treasurer. Treasurer Krischer has served since 2021, and that was fulfilling our former Treasurer McDougall's term, and he was reappointed in 2022. Each officer can serve no more than 2 consecutive terms, so he's not eligible to be treasurer again at this time. And typically, I will say that usually one of the newest board members is appointed as treasurer to help familiarize with our operations and ask those questions about why are you paying a bunch of Happy Birds money? What does this invoice mean? And that leaves us with 3 vacancies: treasurer, vice president, and president. And I will leave it to all of you to discuss. I know Phil has served you've served in every capacity, I think, at this point.
At least once.
At least once, yes. So I will let you discuss amongst yourselves if you want to nominate somebody in particular to serve for a position, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, well, John, you'll be president.
Okay.
I'll do vice president again, but we need a treasurer.
Well, I would be interested in being the treasurer as one
Okay.
of the new board members.
So
We need a vice president if those nominations are acceptable. We've got president and treasurer.
I'll do vice president again, if that's all right.
Yeah.
All right. So
Somebody
do
make
we
a
need-
motion
do we need a
to
motion,
approve the new
Phil?
slate of officers.
Make a motion for John Kirscher as president, for Susan McDougal as vice president, and Mary Jo Williams as treasurer for the next year for the Board of Trustees.
Is there a,
You good?
no, I have it on. Is there a second?
Second that.
Okay, and I guess we need a vote then.
Marie Claire Gorham,
Yes.
John Krischer,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
Yes.
Phil Pardue,
Yes.
Mary Jo Williams.
Yes.
Approved and congratulations.
All right. Is there any other business, old business, new business? Okay.
A few items for the month of August,
Yeah.
and looking forward. So we'll do our year end, and I'll work with both John and Mary Jo on that, so they hand over the reins. Update on ebook usage, and then I am going to be looking at asking you all to form an ad hoc committee. It's time for us to look at the memorandum of agreement between the city and the Board of Trustees and the Carmel Public Library Foundation, and start to review that and think about how we move forward with some updates that have been much needed. And that is what I have for August at the moment. And if there's any additions now, or if you think of anything as the month goes along, please reach out to me and let me know.
Are there any additions to the agenda for August? Nope. Okay, if nothing else, the meeting is adjourned.